In early 2024, a dangerous alliance formed between one of Colombia's most ruthless cartels and a powerful Bulgarian crime syndicate. This wasn't just any deal. It involved drug shipments worth over R1 billion, roughly $50 million US. To bridge the continental gap, they needed someone they could trust implicitly. That man was Peter Jaggers. What these criminal organizations didn't realize was that their trusted middleman was about to pull off one of the most audacious betrayals in the underworld, a decision that would ultimately cost him everything. For years, Jaggers had been the perfect intermediary. As leader of the notorious Terrible Josters gang, his role was straightforward. Receive drug shipment coordinates, ensure safe collection, and guarantee delivery to Bulgarian crime syndicates. This system had made everyone involved incredibly wealthy. But something had shifted inside Jaggers. Perhaps it was watching countless riches flow through his fingers, only to end up in someone else's pocket, or maybe simple greed consumed him. Whatever sparked it, Jaggers grew tired of being just another piece on someone else's chessboard. So he crafted what he believed was the perfect plan. Instead of facilitating the handoff between Colombians and Bulgarians, he would take everything for himself. It seemed flawless in theory, but Jaggers had made a fatal miscalculation. He wasn't just stealing drugs, he was betraying two of the most merciless criminal organizations on the planet. His decision set off a chain of events that would bring destruction not just to his doorstep, but to his closest associates as well.
Born into the harsh reality of apartheid's aftermath, Peter Jaggers was no ordinary criminal. He was the architect of the Terrible Jers, a criminal empire controlling over 10,000 members stretching across the Western Cape like an unbreakable web. From the narrow streets of Heideveld to the rough edges of Kraaifontein, his influence was undeniable. The Terrible Jers weren't just another street gang, they were international players trading in abalone, a seafood delicacy worth its weight in gold in Chinese markets, alongside transnational smuggling operations. The murder of Ernest Lastig Solomon in 2020, a prominent figure within the Terrible Jers, shifted the gang's power balance. With Solomon removed, Jaggers seized the opportunity to consolidate his influence. His dominance became uncontested, and he rose to become one of the most feared and respected figures in Cape Town's criminal underworld.
Communities in Cape Town say they are living in fear because of the high levels of crime. The recent crime stats show that 11 of their top 30 murder precincts are in the mother city.
But Jaggers' operation wasn't built solely on fear. His reputation rested on something far more valuable: trust. He was a man who delivered on promises, earning him the attention of Colombia's most dangerous cartels when they needed someone to manage the nearly impossible logistics of moving cocaine across oceans. Standing beside Jaggers was William "Billy" Peterson, his loyal right-hand man. Peterson understood the intricate and deadly world of international drug trafficking. Together, they were considered an untouchable force. But in the criminal world, nothing stays the same forever. On March 25th, 2024, under the cover of darkness, a shipment arrived on South Africa's remote shores. No ordinary delivery. For months, the Colombian cartels had meticulously planned every detail of this operation. 700 kilograms of pure cocaine, valued at over R1 billion, were making their way from Colombia's coca fields to satisfy Eastern Europe's insatiable drug market. This was the kind of shipment that could make or break criminal empires, and Jaggers was their chosen middleman. The drop strategy was straightforward. A cargo ship would discreetly release specially designed containers into the Western Cape waters. These weren't ordinary shipping containers. They were crafted for stealth, equipped with GPS trackers, and camouflaged to resemble typical maritime cargo. The coordinates would be shared with Jaggers, who would orchestrate the most delicate part, retrieving the shipment without raising alarms. His men would then move it through a network of stash houses and corrupt connections across Cape Town. But that March morning, something was different. As the GPS coordinates lit up on Jaggers' secure communication device, he didn't prepare for a standard retrieval. Instead, he set a daring plan in motion, a plan that would either set him up for life or get him killed. On March 26, 2024, the Maritime Rescue Coordinating Center in South Africa received a desperate distress call. A fishing boat, supposedly stranded about 80 miles off Simonstown, had run out of fuel and was adrift in open sea. The urgency in the caller's voice left no room for delay. Within minutes, rescue boats raced across waves toward the stranded vessel. When rescuers arrived, they found 6 men huddled on the deck of a small, battered boat, looking cold and exhausted, but unharmed. The men claimed they'd run out of fuel during a fishing trip. Relief washed over their faces as they were pulled to safety and brought back to shore. To the rescue team, it was just another day. To everyone watching, an ordinary story of fishermen saved from disaster. But only those 6 men and Jaggers knew the truth. They weren't fishermen at all. They were part of an elaborate scheme. Jaggers had sent these men out to sea not to retrieve the waiting drug shipment, but to stage a show. Their job was simple: pretend to be stranded fishermen and get rescued. The goal was to create a cover story explaining why the shipment never reached its destination. Jaggers wanted the Colombian Cartel and Bulgarian Mafia to believe the drugs had been lost to the sea. When the men reached shore, one slipped away and made a cryptic call to Jaggers: "Send the second boat. Everything's ready." Just like that, the plan's second phase was set in motion. Another boat staffed with Jaggers' most trusted men headed to the same location. Unlike the first crew, their mission wasn't a performance. It was the real deal. They were there to retrieve the shipment and bring it back. What happened next remains shrouded in mystery. Did they find the drugs? Did they make it back safely? Street rumors suggested Jaggers had succeeded. The shipment, instead of going to the Bulgarian Mafia, was sold to another buyer. Every last cent went straight into Jaggers' pocket. But if Jaggers thought he'd gotten away clean, he couldn't have been more wrong. Thousands of miles away, both the Bulgarian Mafia and Colombian Cartel were about to discover they'd been played. The Bulgarian boss was first to sense something was wrong when the expected shipment failed to arrive. His patience evaporated as he contacted the Colombian Cartel leader, who listened in growing disbelief. Jaggers had always been their most reliable middleman. How could everything suddenly go so wrong? The Colombian leader wasted no time dialing Jaggers, certain there was some misunderstanding. "What happened to the shipment?" he demanded. Jaggers, calm and collected, offered a simple explanation. "It got lost at sea. Couldn't recover it." But the excuse didn't sit well. This wasn't their first deal. They'd carried out far more complicated operations without a hitch. Why now? Why this shipment? His instincts screamed that something was off. Furious, he decided he wouldn't take Jaggers' word for it. For 2 months, nothing happened. No attacks, no threats, just silence. Jaggers, growing more confident, began to believe he'd pulled off the impossible. He'd stolen millions, deceived 2 ruthless criminal organizations, and lived to tell the tale. But in the shadowy world of organized crime, silence is rarely a blessing. It's the storm brewing. On a humid June afternoon, Jaggers' phone buzzed. The voice on the other end was calm, almost friendly, with a faint Bulgarian accent. "Mr. Jaggers, we need to discuss the shipment. We'd like to make a deal." Jaggers knew refusing wasn't an option. Declining would only raise suspicions, and he couldn't risk anyone digging too deep. So, against his better judgment, he agreed to meet in Johannesburg. What Jaggers didn't know was that the Bulgarians weren't interested in deals. They already knew the truth. So did the Colombians. Now, these 2 powerful organizations were working together not to bargain, but to make Jaggers pay. On June 30th, 2024, Peter Jaggers and William Peterson made their way to Cape Town International Airport around 5 p.m., headed for Johannesburg. As they arrived at OR Tambo International, 2 sharply dressed men were waiting. "Welcome to Johannesburg, gentlemen," one said, shaking Jaggers' hand firmly. The Bulgarians were nothing if not polite. Jaggers and Peterson were escorted to a luxury hotel suite that felt like a stage set for a show they didn't fully understand. The Bulgarians treated them like royalty, ensuring every detail of their stay was perfect. But beneath the surface, Jaggers couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The meeting with the Bulgarian Mafia was scheduled for July 3rd, 2024. When the clock struck 8 p.m., a sleek black car pulled up to the hotel entrance. The driver barely acknowledged them as they slid into the back seat. The car stopped in front of an unmarked building, and the silence outside was deafening. Jaggers felt his chest tighten as the driver stepped out. Before he could process what was happening, the door opened and a man climbed into the back seat. He was Colombian. In his hand was a pistol. He tilted his head slightly, his eyes locking onto Jaggers. "Did you really think you could get away with it?" Jaggers didn't respond. He couldn't. His mind raced, searching for an escape, a way out. But there was none. The walls were closing in, and there was no negotiating his way out. "Get out," the man ordered, motioning with the pistol toward the building. As Jaggers and Peterson were marched into the dark, empty space, the truth was undeniable. The game was over. The mastermind who had outsmarted so many had finally run out of moves. Back in Cape Town, tension in the Jaggers household grew thicker with each passing day. Peter's wife, used to her husband's unpredictable life, couldn't shake the growing sense that something was terribly wrong. His usual disappearances were unsettling, but this time there was no response to any calls or texts. By July 5th, 2 days after Peter had left for the mysterious Johannesburg meeting, worry turned to panic. Unable to ignore the fear any longer, she drove to the Bishop Lavis police station and filed a missing person report. As time went on, the unspoken truth became clear. Peter Jaggers wasn't just missing. He was in danger. Later that evening, her phone buzzed with a WhatsApp notification from an unknown number. "Hey, we're not playing. Your husband's on the way to South America. You guys have 24 hours to return the stuff, or we will come after your families. We're not playing. We're gangsters from Colombia. We're cartel. We don't forgive you." Another voice note followed with an equally chilling message. "Don't forget. Time is running out. You've got 24 hours to give my stuff back." The cartel's ultimatum continued. "If I don't get my things, I will bomb your house. Anything related to you, I'll finish it. You think we're playing games? I'm not." Jaggers' representatives attempted to negotiate. "Is there no alternative? No way we can work together to pay back what was lost?" they pleaded. The response came swiftly. "I've given you a chance. No more words. I'll show you today." Desperate, Jaggers' team continued appealing for a solution. "Please think of a way we can resolve this. We'll work for you as long as you need us." But the Colombians' reply was a cold dismissal. "Don't contact me again. I've already given you a chance." After that, communication ceased. Jaggers and Peterson vanished. No one heard from them again, and their whereabouts remained a mystery for 3 long months. Then, on October 11th, 2024, a passerby near the Klip River in Olifantsvai noticed something disturbing in the water. As he got closer, he realized it was a body. Police diving units quickly arrived, uncovering a second body only a meter away. Both were in an advanced state of decomposition, their features obscured by time and the river's cruel grasp. By October 16th, the horrifying truth was confirmed. The families of Peter Jaggers and William Peterson identified the remains. Jaggers' wife was crushed when she saw the unmistakable tattoos on his body. There was no denying it now. Peter was gone. His life had ended not in triumph, but in brutal tragedy. The bodies showed clear signs of torture. Both men had been handcuffed and their feet bound with cable ties. One body bore the chilling tattoo "International Crook," while the other had a cross surrounded by flames. The Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation took over the case, piecing together the story of a life consumed by crime and betrayal. Peter Jaggers, a man who had once navigated the dangerous underworld with sharp cunning, had finally paid the ultimate price for his web of deceit. His death didn't make headlines. There were no crowds at his funeral, no media frenzy. To some, he was a cautionary tale, proof that the criminal world doesn't forgive. To others, his death was simply the price of living a life built on betrayal. But to his wife and those who truly knew him, Peter Jaggers was more than just his choices. He was a husband, a father, and ultimately, a man who became a victim of the ruthless world he once believed he could control. In the end, his story proves one harsh truth. In a life ruled by crime, the sword you live by is often the one that takes you down.